Today I wanted to talk about some series that I think are really great to binge read during the winter time and that I think don't really get talked about that much here on YouTube. I just wanted to show them some love and give you some great options to marathon read during the winter months or during your winter break. The first series I'm going to talk about is literally my favorite young adult fantasy series of all time, and that is the Iron Fae series by Julie Kagawa. I have been obsessed with this series since I was like 13 years old. I bought the very first book in the series at Sears Essentials, and the book went on a super sale at Sears. I read the back and I fell in love with the series. In this series, we follow our protagonist, Meg, whose father disappeared when she was very little. Her mother remarries and has a son with her new husband and basically gets an entire new life, and Megan still kind of feels like she's in some sort of weird life limbo. You know, she's just different, she feels different, and she discovers that her brother has been kidnapped by fairies. This then catapults Meg into the world of the fairies, and the particular fairies within this book follow the Shakespearean fairies. So there is literally Queen Mab, there is the summer and winter courts, Seelie, Unseelie fairies. If you love fairies, you'll love this series. It's everything to me. I love this series so much. There is a love triangle. It is done well. You love both of them for different reasons, just like Megan. The story is just really unique. What happens in the story is very interesting, and it's not really heard of in other fairy series or fairy novels. It's so addicting. You get so attached to the characters. It is a journey. You go through so much. You get so irritated, but at the same time, you love it so much. I have never really heard anybody talk about this series on YouTube, except for actually recently I heard Mika August on YouTube talk about this series, and I was just like, thank you for mentioning this series, because nobody talks about it, nobody reads it, and it's absolutely amazing. So that is the first series on my list. I highly recommend it. If you love young adult fantasy, if you love fairies, if you just are looking for a good time, I highly recommend this series. And if that didn't sell you, there's an Ice Prince. That's it. That's the synopsis. The next series on my list is called the Crown's Game Trilogy by Evelyn Skye. This is what I would like to describe as a historical fiction fantasy, but very light on the historical fiction. Essentially, the book is set in Russia where there are still czars ruling. So that's kind of the historical aspect of it, is that it's kind of like Russia back in time, and also there is magic in this world and people can possess magic. So that's where the fantasy comes in. It's definitely more fantasy than historical fiction, but it does have czars, which is accurate to Russian history, so that's kind of the historical part. And it is set back in time. It's not set in current day. Our protagonist, Vika, has the ability to use magic, and she is entered in the Enchanter's Game. And essentially it is a magical duel where the winner becomes the Tsar's enchanter, like his right-hand magical man or woman or whatever. So that is the premise of this story. Russia, it's snowing, there's magic, there's a ball, there's royals, there's a dueling of people, there's betrayal, there's political intrigue, there's love in a relationship, multiple relationships. There's just so much going on, and I never hear anybody talk about this, and it was very good. I highly recommend it. I think if you liked the Shadow and Bone trilogy from Leigh Bardugo, you would really enjoy this. They have similar vibes in the sense that magic is part of the world, but it's not part of everyone's world. Not everyone has magic. It's still special to have the ability to utilize magic, and that there is this kind of dark force at work that has to be looked into and figured out. And there's also, you know, relationships that are going on and happening on the side. So if you enjoyed that trilogy, I think you would enjoy this and all that it has to offer. So that is the second series on my list, Crown's Game by Evelyn Skye. The next on my list is actually a contemporary series. It's actually a trilogy, and it is A Study in Charlotte by Brittany Cavallaro. I don't hear a lot of people talk about this, just like the rest of all of these, and it's amazing. It's such an amazing trilogy. It's so well done, and I feel like everybody who likes crime would enjoy this trilogy. The premise of this trilogy is that we follow the teenage descendants of Holmes and Watson. They attend a private school in Connecticut and things start getting a little bit sus. Somebody is mimicking the murders of the Adventures of Sherlock Holmes stories. They team up to figure out who's doing it, what's going on. This web is so intricately woven. I had no idea what was going to happen within every single book. I never saw any of it coming, but it always made complete sense. Brittany Cavallaro has a way of dropping these subtle hints and happenings throughout the story that you don't even think about or pick up on until it's the end of the book, and then it all fits together to all equal up to the answer to what has been going on and why. It's mind-blowing, actually. Since it is mostly set in the Connecticut boarding school, it is very winter vibes, very dark academia vibes, lots of snow, lots of jackets. You know, it's a very great one to pick up during the winter. There are trigger warnings for this trilogy. I would say that there are trigger warnings for drug abuse and also sexual assault / harassment. So, you know, just be wary of that. Maybe look up some other ones. Those are the two that I'm aware of from reading the story, but there might be more. I'm not exactly sure. So maybe do a quick Google search before picking this up. But if that is fine with you, I would highly recommend this trilogy. It's really amazing, really well written, intricately woven stories, amazing relationships between the two main characters and also their families. There's a lot of family intrigue that goes on. I think if you enjoy the original stories of Sherlock Holmes, you would really enjoy these because they do nod to the original stories a lot in the original happenings between the two individuals and the real life part of Holmes and Watson. So yes, that is my third series on this list. The next series on my list is actually a duology, and it is the Beholder Duology by Anna Bright. This duology actually takes place mostly on a boat, funny enough, until the second book in the duology. But basically we follow a young girl named Selah who lives in America. Every country is reimagined to be something completely different than it currently is, and it's similar in the sense that America is one of the newer nations, but it's just very different the way that Anna Bright made this world. There's continents that are named different things, but you know what the continent is nodding to, but it is still different. It's almost like the future meets the past in the way that she has created this geography of this world, and it's very interesting. So basically Selah is what you could equate to be the princess of America. But obviously there is no princess of America. So her father is kind of like the chief of America. There's a particular word used in the series that I just don't remember. She is right below him. Her mother has passed away. And so whenever her father passes away, she will basically be in charge of the entire nation. The story follows Selah on a quest to find the perfect man. Basically, she needs to be married in order to obtain Potomac, which is America. It's kind of part of the rite of passage. You kind of have to have somebody as your right-hand individual that can help you, govern your nation. And that's essentially what the story's premise is. You follow her courting these individuals and trying to find someone that she can spend the rest of her life with. From that description, it sounds really simple and not that interesting, but there's more. There's actually a lot of political intrigue that occurs. There's a lot of warring between the nations. There's a lot going on farther east that's happening, and it kind of entangles itself into the story, and a lot happens within a short amount of time. You get addicted to this duology. It's honestly so fun to basically be Selah and just run around the world, like courting these well-to-do princes, but also having a mission in the back of your mind to just stand up for your country and take care of it. And then also there's the political intrigue that's going on with the nation that's basically trying to like take over the world. It's a lot. It's a lot to handle, but I really enjoyed it. I finished the series so quickly because there's only the 2 books. It's not perfect, but it's still a fun time. I highly recommend it. There's definitely winter vibes that happen. I can't really say why, but just take my word for it. I can give you a small inclination to the fact that there is a Nordic prince. That's what I can tell you. I highly recommend this duology if you're looking for something really quick, really fun, fast-paced, and politically interesting. I highly recommend this duology. The last series on my list is actually a middle grade option, and that is The School for Good and Evil by Soman Chainani. This series sounds exactly like what it sounds like. Within this world, there is a real world and then there is a magical world, and there's this story where 2 children from this particular village that it begins in are kidnapped every so often and they're taken away. What we learn in the story is that they're taken away to this school for good and evil, which is essentially like a school for fairy tale children in which you are either a good or you are a evil. And you are kind of educated on how to be a good or an evil and live within a fairy tale. Our 2 main characters are Sophie and Agatha, and Sophie is the picture of a princess. She has beautiful long blonde hair, a gorgeous face, and everybody just thinks that she is going to get snatched up and taken away to princess school. And we have her counterpart, Agatha. Agatha literally lives next to a graveyard. She has this like greasy black hair. She wears like a giant cloak, and she is the picture of evil. The 2 girls get chosen and taken away and find themselves in an interesting circumstance. Essentially, Sophie is taken to the school of evil and Agatha is taken to the school of good. The first book chronicles whether this is an accident or if it was really meant to be, and the rest of the story catapults this idea and follows the young girls as they go through this school and learn a lot about themselves and those around them. There is a dark force that is kind of in the works at the school, and the 2 girls kind of have to team up to figure out what's going on and how they can essentially save this world that they're thrown into. Of course, because it's a fairy tale, there is, you know, a young Prince Charming character that is within the story. It's a great winter read because it has fairy tale elements and fairy tale figures. There's magic. There's also, you know, magical school vibes where the girls are taking classes, you know, they're fighting with each other with magic. There's this kind of dueling in the school between the goods and the evils, and it's just a really fun time. I would say that it's older middle grade, knocking towards young adult throughout the rest of the series. Very young adult, but it's still not like 11-year-old. I would say it becomes more suitable for like a 13 or 14-year-old towards the end of the series. So it's a really great option if you are wanting something that has that middle grade fun, but is also a little bit more sophisticated in the way it's written and the plot line. This is a really great pick, and I don't see a lot of people talking about it. It's a really great winter read to pick up. It's definitely aggravating. You definitely get really irritated with Sophie and Agatha throughout the story, but you also get really connected to them and what happens to them, and you just want the best for them and their friends and the school, and you just want everybody to live happily ever after. So I highly recommend picking it up for the winter time. It's a really great series to just marathon read. It's a really great middle grade option if that's what you're in the mood for at the time. That is going to be it for all of my winter series read recommendations. I hope you found some interesting reads to pick up during the winter. If you are going to pick them up, let me know in the comments down below what you're going to pick up from this list. Please be the Iron Face series by Julie Kagawa. Please pick that series up. Okay, thank you so much. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in my next video. I hope you like the sweater that I wore. It's kind of everything. I got it at Goodwill. I just wanted to let you see it in all of its glory. It's amazing. It's the best thing I've ever purchased. Thanks for asking.